What's going on, man? Goose here, and another video for you guys. So this one is going to be about the top 25 that was last week in college football. So let's yonder on over and look at the games. As we had first game we're going to look at is Florida. They were home to Charlotte as they win 22-7. So maybe not the offensive output that the some Gator fans want, only scoring 22 points. But Florida's defense is really, really good. I think they're tops in the SEC. So Florida's defense is really, really good, and I wish LSU had a defense like that. As they beat Charlotte 22-7, as Graham Mertz threw for 259 and one touchdown. Montrell Johnson had 63 yards on the ground. Etienne had 48. And Andy Jean had one carry, 25 for the Gators. And Ricky Pearsall, he had a nice one-handed catch, 6 catches for a $104. And Fordingham had the touchdown reception for the Gators. He had 2 catches for 31. Gators improved to 3-1 on the season. Maybe Florida's not going to be as bad as people said. Maybe not. I know they got some tougher games coming up than Charlotte, but I think most people thought they were going to lose to Tennessee right at this point in the season. But they beat Tennessee. And speaking of Tennessee, they beat the Texas San Antonio Roadrunners 45-14. How is Tennessee ahead of Florida when they've already had a head-to-head? Florida's beat them. That's just kind of crazy. I know rankings don't mean jack shit in this point of the season, but it's just kind of weird that anyway. Joe Milton threw for 2 touchdowns, no picks, 209 yards passing for Milton. As Dylan Sampson had 139 yards on the ground, 2 touchdowns. Milton had a touchdown. Small had a touchdown on the ground. And through the air, he had Ramel Keaton had 1 catch for 48. That was a touchdown. And then Caleb Webb had 2 catches for 22 and also a touchdown. As they only threw the ball, they threw the ball 33 times total as a team. As only 18 receptions out of those 33. So the completion percentage is not good. They were able to run the ball at will. They ran the ball for over 300 yards and almost 10 yards a carry. That's just really, really good. All right, let's see next team on the list. We get the Miami Hurricanes as they beat Temple 41-7. As the Hurricanes stay undefeated. As Tyler Van Dyke threw for 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, 220 yards through the air. As Parrish, 139 on the ground, 2 touchdowns. Receiving for the Canes, Jacoby George, 5 catches for 90. Strepo had 7 catches for 41 and 2 touchdowns. And Young also had a catch for a touchdown. The Canes, they stay undefeated as they beat Temple 41-7. Miami's 4-0. Of course, they got some games against, coming up, Florida State, Clemson, teams like that. All right, so Duke, they stay undefeated. They beat the UConn Huskies 41-7. As Riley Leonard threw 1 touchdown, no picks, through 248. Running the ball, stats here, they only ran the ball 74 yards as a team on the ground. Yeah, a team and UConn is really not good. I thought that would be a little more. I thought they would have a lot more yards than that, and the yards per carry, 2.7 isn't good. But they got it done as they threw for 248 yards. As Moore had 86 yards receiving and a touchdown for the Blue Devils as they stay undefeated. But they got a big game against Notre Dame coming up next weekend. They got Pittsburgh, North Carolina. As the Tar Heels, they stay undefeated as well. They win 41-24. As Drake May threw for 1 touchdown, no picks, 296 to the air. As Omarion Hampton, 18 carries for 66 and a touchdown. Drake May, 10 carries for 3 yards, 2 touchdowns. So, all right, through the air, we got J.J. Jones had 6 yards, or 6 receptions for 117. And the Pacer had the touchdown reception for the Tar Heels. So he had 3 receptions for 39. Did have that receiving touchdown for North Carolina as they stay undefeated. They go to 4-0. Then we got Oklahoma and Cincinnati. As the Sooners, they stay undefeated as they get a conference win. Yeah, Cincinnati's in the conference now. Oklahoma wins 20-6 as Dillon Gabriel, 322 yards through the air, 1 touchdown. As Marcus Major, 15 carries for 63 for Oklahoma. Gabriel did have the rushing touchdown. But through the air, see Anthony, 7 receptions for 117. Oklahoma stays undefeated. And then they get the first win in the Big 12 for them. And since they're 1-0 in the Big 12, and now he's 0-1 in the Big 12. We got a ranked matchup. We got Alabama and Ole Miss. As Bama wins 24-10. As Milroe had 225 yards through the air, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. McClellan had 17 carries for 105 and a rushing touchdown. As Jalen Hale had 2 catches for 63 and a touchdown. As Marie says hi in the background. Alabama, they ran for 131. Team looking for Ole Miss. Jackson Dart threw for 244, no touchdowns. Did have an interception. Junkins has been a little off this year. Only 56 yards rushing on 13 carries, but the average is good, 4.3. But Ole Miss was behind in this game, so kind of probably they weren't going to run Junkins that much. But as Dayton Wade had 5 receptions for 88 for Ole Miss in a losing effort. So Bama goes to 1-0 in conference. Ole Miss goes to 0-1 in the Southeastern Conference. Next. I missed one. I missed this one. I missed Washington State and Oregon State. So we'll go to that one. Washington State and Oregon State. The Cougars win 38-35 over the Beavers. As Washington goes to 4-0, Oregon State goes to 3-1 on the year. As Cameron Ward threw for 4 touchdowns. The Cougars, they threw for 404. Watson leading ball carry, 8 carries for 46 for Washington State. And looking at the receiving corps, they had 2 guys over 100 yards, Williams and Kelly. Williams had 174. Kelly had 159. Kelly had 3 receiving touchdowns. Williams had 1 for the Cougars. Going over to the Beavers. As Uungale, 198 yards of the year, 1 touchdown, did have an interception. Fenwick had 101 yards rushing. Martinez also had 81 yards rushing. Oregon State ran the ball well in a losing effort. But as Bolden was the leading receiver, 5 catches for 76 for Oregon State. But Washington State goes to 1-0 in conference, and Oregon State falls to 0-1 in conference during the Pac-12. We got this one. We got got LSU. LSU and Arkansas. LSU wins 34-31 as they get a late field goal at the end. Jaden Daniels threw for 4 touchdowns and an interception. Threw for 320 yards. Logan Diggs, leading ball carrier, 14 carries for 97. Tigers had 2 receivers over 100 yards. Thomas and Neighbors both had 2 touchdowns apiece between them. Thomas had 2 and Neighbors had 2. Tigers get it done as their defense was horrible, but their offense was better. As KJ Jefferson threw for 3 touchdowns, did have 2 interceptions. One of those interceptions was at the end of the game. They were just throwing the ball up in the air. As Davinian had 78 yards on the ground for Arkansas. This guy Luke Haas, We couldn't stop him. LSU couldn't stop him at all. Six receptions for a buck 16 and 2 touchdowns. As LSU goes to 3-1, 2-0 in conference. Arkansas is 0-1 in conference, 2-2 overall on the season. All right, we got UCLA and Utah as the Utes. They stay undefeated as they win 14-7. Boy, old-fashioned defensive battle. As Nate Johnson threw for 117, 1 touchdown, no picks. As Glover was a leading ball carrier for Utah, 25 carries for 86 yards. As Bailey, 2 receptions for 57 for Utah. And then over for the Bruins, you had Dante Moore, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, 3 for 234. Look at the rushing for UCLA, 9 yards as a team. I know a lot of that was taken away in sacks. So college football takes the rushing yards away in sacks. NFL is passing, it's different, but still 31 yards by Harden, 29 by Steele. That's just not good at all for running the football. The Bruins, their offense was not good at all. Utah's was just good enough as they win 14-7. Utah goes to 1-0 in conference, and UCLA's 0-1 in conference. Oregon and Colorado. All right, so this was like one of the marquee matchups because people just wanted to see what happened. But Oregon, it's not. People shouldn't be surprised about this football game. Maybe 42-6, but Colorado wasn't going to win this football game. They don't have the horses like Oregon does. They just don't. They just don't. Bo Nix threw for 3 touchdowns and 1 pick, threw for 276. As they ran as a team, they ran for 240 yards. Bucky Irving, 10 carries for 89. He was a leading ball carrier. As James Whittington and Bo Nix all had rushing touchdowns for Oregon. As Troy Franklin had 8 receptions for a buck 26 and 2 touchdowns. Kelly had the other touchdowns receiving for Oregon. As Colorado, they couldn't throw it, they couldn't run it, they couldn't do much at all. They only threw the ball for 159 yards, only ran for 40. So Oregon stays undefeated as they go to 4-0, 1-0 in conference. Colorado falls to 0-1 in conference and 3-1 overall. The Buffaloes and the Ducks. We got Washington and California. Washington stays hot. They win 59-32. They 4-0, 1-0 in conference. Cal Bears are 2-2 and 0-1 in conference. And Michael Penix threw for 4 touchdowns and did have an interception, threw for 304 yards. Dylan Johnson, 10 rushes for 66 for the Huskies. Had a touchdown on the ground. Adams had a touchdown on the ground for Washington. As Polk had 8 receptions for 127. And Aduns had 5 for 125. And both those guys had 2 receiving touchdowns. So, man, the Washingtons, I think they might be the best team in the Pac-12. We'll find out later on. Everybody plays each other. But Washington looks like I think they might be the class of the Pac-12, but we'll see. We got Penn State and Iowa. This was a ranked matchup, but Penn State shut them out 31-0. As Iowa's offense, it's just pathetic. 20 yards on the ground as a team, 56 yards passing. Iowa's offense is just it's awful. Penn State, they didn't throw it very well. They only had 182 yards as a team passing. Did have 4 touchdowns. And Drew Allar had 25 out of 37 for 166. But they did run the ball for 215 yards as Katron Allen had 21 carries for 72 yards. Lambert Smith was the leading receiver for Penn State. Did have a receiving touchdown. 8 receptions for 66. Warren had 2 touchdowns, and so did Dinkins. Penn State. They go to 4-0, 2-0 in conference. And Iowa 3-1 overall, 0-1 in conference. here for the Iowa Hawkeyes. It's nothing. But Ohio State and Notre Dame. It was another low scoring game as the Buckeyes win 17-14 as they get a touchdown on the last play. Well, not the last play of the game because they did put a second back on the clock. So 1 second left, they score a touchdown as they win 17-14 as Notre Dame had 10 players on the field for the final 2 plays. Marcus Freeman kind of defended that, saying that's the way they wanted to go. Okay. Kind of hard playing 11, kind of hard playing 10 on 11. But anyway, Kyle McCord threw for 240 and did no touchdowns, but he had no interceptions for Ohio State. That was big on the road, having no interceptions. As Travion Henderson had 14 carries for 104, had a touchdown, and Trainum also had a rushing touchdown for the Buckeyes. As Ibuka had 7 receptions for 96 for Ohio State. Looking over for Notre Dame is Hartman threw for 1 touchdown, no picks, threw for 175. They ran it for 176 as a team. But that's time. 14 carries for 70 yards. Payne did have the rushing touchdown for Notre Dame. Notre Dame falls to 4-1 the year. And Ohio State is 4-0 on the year. Man, that was. I watched into that game. It was a good. That was a very entertaining football game. All right, we got not many games left. As we got USC and Arizona State, as the Trojans win 42-28, as they go to 4-0, 2-0 in conference. Arizona State is 1-3, 0-1 in conference. As Caleb Williams threw for 3 touchdowns, over 300 yards passing, 322. Marshawn Lloyd, 14 carries for $154. Trojans. And Brendan Rice, 7 receptions for 133, 2 touchdowns. Washington also had a touchdown for USC. As Trojans, they stay undefeated. I think it's gonna be either them or Washington. Although I did pick Washington to win the best team in the Pac-12, but it's gonna be one of those 2 teams. Those are the 2 best teams in the Pac-12, Washington and USC. But I still think Washington's. But we'll find out. All right, Florida State and Clemson as the Seminoles win in overtime, 31-24. As Clemson missed a late field goal that could have given them the lead, but the Seminoles get it done in overtime as they score a touchdown. Then they hold Clemson. But Jordan Travis threw 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, threw for 289. But man, look at the rushing for Florida State. I didn't realize it was that bad, man. 20 carries for 22 as a team for Florida State. I just didn't realize it was that bad. As Clemson ran for 146, and make sure, man, Clemson ran the ball well. Just man. Clemson just couldn't get it done at the end. Missed that late field goal. As Florida State stays undefeated, they go 2-0 in conference. Clemson goes to 0-2 in the ACC. So Clemson's chances for getting into the conference title game is pretty much not going to happen. All right, we got Texas and Baylor. As Texas, they defeat the Baylor Bears 38-6 as they stay undefeated. 4-0, 1-0 in conference. Baylor's 1-3, 0-1 in conference. Baylor might be looking for a new coach at the end of the year. Quinn Ewers threw for 293, a touchdown. Jonathan Brooks, 18 carries for 106 and 2 touchdowns. Quinn Ewers had a rushing touchdown. So did Baxter for Texas. Look at the receiving. Worthy was the only guy that had a receiving touchdown. But Sanders had 5 catches for $110 for Texas as they stay undefeated. Them in Oklahoma, so looks like they're going to be undefeated when they meet up. All right, only 2 more games to go over as Michigan at home against Rutgers as Harbaugh's return. He's back coaching the team after his little absence. They win 31-7 over Rutgers. Well, I think Rutgers scored the first points of the game, and then that was it. As Michigan threw for 214. 214. McCarthy had 1 touchdown, no picks. They ran the ball for 201 yards as a team. Four of them had 97 yards on the ground, 2 touchdowns. Only had one touchdown through the air. That was Morgan that caught that for the Wolverines. As they go to 4-0, 1-0 in conference. And the last one on the list is Georgia. Georgia, of course, they stay undefeated as they beat UAB 49-21. Carson Beck for 338. They played three quarterbacks. They played Vandegrift, Stockton, and Beck. Did Georgia. Dejon Edwards had 12 carries for 66, 2 touchdowns. Clark had a rushing touchdown. Carson Beck had a rushing touchdown for Georgia. They went 49-21. Brock Bowers, 9 catches for 121, 2 touchdowns. Brock Bowers, man. Some NFL team is going to be lucky getting Brock Bowers, man. Some NFL team is going to be loving some Brock Bowers when they get him in the draft next year. But there it is. There's your top 25 recap. Top 25 recap for week number 4, right? 4, man. Starting week number 4. Have a good one, man. And next time.